Final recap on Sunday's game versus the Giants. Kind of had an epiphany, and I don't know if Saints fans want to hear it, but I think it needs to be said. Plus, a little Derek Carr update and a Kendre Miller highlight. I'm Tim. Let's talk Saints. Yesterday, Monday, I kind of spent most of the day thinking about Sunday's game, thinking about some of the conversations we had on the live stream post game Sunday night. Conversation I had with my brother-in-law yesterday. We went to a meeting last night, and conversation in the car on the ride up there. Um, but something was just kind of gnawing at me. Got home last night, rewatched a little bit of the game, and I just started thinking about who our opponent was. But not just in 2024, who the Giants have been over the you know 2000s, and kind of in a comparison in organizations between the Giants and the Saints. When you're talking about a two-time Super Bowl winning team in the early 2000s, 2007 and 2011. Longtime coach was there about 10, 11 years, and Tom Coughlin won both of them. I don't remember if he was retired or fired in 2015, but that's when he was no longer the coach. And he had 3 straight losing seasons before that point. But before that, they were a solid organization. Since he moved on in the 9 seasons since, um, including 2024, they've had 2 winning seasons, two winning seasons out of the 9, 2016 and 2022. 2016 they were 11-5, 2022 they were 9-7-1. Their combined record over that 9-year span, including Sunday, is 50 wins, 93 losses, 1 tie. And you're going, how did this organization get there in a relatively decade, depending on when you want to pinpoint when their decline started, give or take, with a couple of 11-5 season and a 9-7-1 barely kind of squeak in type situation. In an 11-5 season, they lost in the wild card round. 9-7-1, they won one and then lost in a division. So even their playoff record, 1-2, But you really start thinking back and do a little investigating, and you're finding that their decline is bad roster management issues, bad salary cap issues, terrible contracts, being a big part of it, keeping players on your roster you no longer want on your roster, but you're kind of stuck with them until the money evens out. And pretty soon that leads to your cap issues if you keep handing out bad contracts like that. Doubling, tripling down on keeping the wrong player because you drafted him or you signed him as a free agent or whatever, and he's not working out. And you're paying him, so you don't want to pay him to go play somewhere else. You don't want to take the cap hit. You let some other players go. They roll up on a new team, and the fans are left wondering, the hell did we pay this guy? In the case of the Giants, if we pay Jones and let Barkley walk, look at the gap in what's going on with that. It goes along with bad talent evaluation, which leads into bad drafting, which is compounded when they've had 3 terrible coaching hires. Dayball's on his way out, so they're going to be adding a 4th one over that 9-year span. Lack of or just bad front office vision and leadership, no accountability anywhere in that organization, and it's just terrible culture currently. And full disclosure, I spent a little time last night and this morning going to some of the Giants version of what we're doing here, even catching like Bad Dog Sports was Bad Dog was on a live stream throughout the game, and I watched most of that. And just they're almost um so a lot of these guys were talking about the fact they feel lucky we tackled Neighbors late in the game before he scored the touchdown. And they weren't upset about the Brazil block for the most part, going, okay, we're securing our draft position. That's the way they're thinking. And then when you look back on their record over the last 9 years, they've done that an awful lot. 4-win seasons, 3-win seasons scattered in there. So, I mean, you're talking about in that span, they had 20 wins in their 2 winning seasons combined out of their 50 total over that span. It's an organization that was once proud and had 2 Super Bowls in 4 years in their back pocket, and now right now, they're the shit show of all NFL shit shows as an organization, and it hit me somewhere along this process that what bothered me and what kept bothering me about the game on Sunday wasn't necessarily everything we were talking about. It was stuff we weren't talking about, and I think I was feeling it in my gut, and I just couldn't identify it, but I'm identifying it now. What scared me and pissed me off about that game, and I realize it now, watching what we were watching going on. We were playing against our future if we keep going the way we're headed. Bottom line, what you are seeing, and this is, and I already know what's coming out in the comments. I already know what's coming out, that you don't can't accept reality till it's forced upon you. And so I know there's going to be a contingent of Saints fans who are not going to believe that's where we're headed till we actually get there, and then turn around and look 3 or 4 years, and it could be faster than that. To be perfectly honest with you, it could be as 2025, 2026 when we're going to start drawing some nasty comparison to the New York Giants as an organization, as a football team you put on the field, and everything in between. But it's the truth. It's the God's honest truth. You know what we have? We have bad roster management. We have bad salary cap management. We have bad contracts all over the place. We have kept doubling and tripling down. We had a conversation a couple of different times on the post game show Sunday night. Hendrickson walks, keeping Davenport. Vaughn tearing it up in his first year in Philly and had been sitting on our roster, basically doing none for years. Caden Ellis before him, who's played some pretty good ball in Atlanta. The couple of years since he walked out, Vaughn actually replaced him, and then Vaughn left. Your player evaluation is horrible, not only in players you're trying to bring in free agency or players you're trying to draft. For the most part, we get some hidden gems in there now, but we're no longer getting the solid drafts we once had to build a roster. And there's no accountability, and the culture right now is bad. Now, the accountability issue and the culture issue seem to be maybe a little bit on the upswing now, seeing something up, recognizing it. So maybe there's hope before we go the full blown down the Giants path that we've started on. And anybody who can't acknowledge that Sean, like Coughlin, did some great things, but at least with the organization he was in here, started to decline, moved on. And we started a process of bad hires and continued and made worse a lot of these same issues. So when you look, and look, I'm sure the Giants aren't the only one. We could probably go back and look at a lot of the bad organizations that just can't get out of their own way right now around the NFL. You're going to see these same problems coming up. It's a scary thought watching your future for 4 quarters and limping out of there with a 14-11 win didn't help. Because now, and I think this is just the real big takeaway from all this. You beat them with all the issues we just talked about. You beat them 35-3. Once again, you're going to start ignoring all this and you're going back to business as usual. Maybe this is the wake-up call I needed, the organization needs, everybody needs, going, look, be honest with you. Your question is going to be, well, what's the fix? I don't know what the fix is. Okay. But I know this. I've never been in the medical industry whatsoever, never been to med school, never been to nursing school. In fact, in school and in college, the biologies and the stuff like that, one of my worst subjects. I'm nowhere an expert on any of that. However, I can look at somebody and see that they're running a fever, they're sweaty, they're cramping, they're running in the bathroom every 2 or 3 minutes, they're sneezing, they're coughing, they're miserable, they can barely stand upright. I can't diagnose it, but I can tell you they're sick. And I can tell them, you need to go see a doctor. And this is the call to the Saints going, you guys are sick and you need to go see a doctor. You need to go find the person that's going to help you fix all this. Because if you keep doing what you're doing the way you're doing it, you're going to end up like the Giants. There's no if and or buts about this. There's no sugarcoating it. There's no rainbows and unicorns at the end of the path we're currently on. You, you're looking at your future if you want to go rewatch the Saints Giants game. It's bottom line. We have a chance to do this right this offseason. Again, I don't know what right is necessarily going to be. But the people who are getting paid a ton of money to do it right either need to start doing it right now. There's no more time wasting on this. Or some people are going to have to make some tough calls and move on organizational wide. As brother-in-law said last night, blow it up. Are we at that point yet where you got to blow it up and start all over? I really don't want to go there. But one way or the other, you're likely headed there if you can't stop the sickness right now. I thought going into this season, I knew we were a declining team and there was a lot of issues, but I thought we were still, the curve wasn't a sharp drop off. Thought we still had a little time than that. I thought this soft reset thing that we tried and thought it was going to work. Not so sure now. I don't know how radical of a change it needs to be, but they need medicine. They need something. And what I've realized, this game just kind of woke me up, is that decline is starting to get sharp. That curve is starting to bend in the downward directions a lot faster than I was anticipating. I was completely wrong on how bad this was going. You want to say it's just one game. I think it's the microcosm of where we're headed. That you can see if we can't start acknowledging these problems, fixing them, find the people to fix them. We're going to look down one day in the dome, and Brian Daboll is going to be in our sideline. And we're going to be talking about, man, I hope we don't score on this drive. I hope we miss this field goal because we don't want to endanger our draft pick. And here's the thing that I will leave you with while watching all these Giants fans in these live streams, and I'll talk about it. And this is what scares me about the Saints. Even if you get that great draft pick, what are you going to do with it? Because over that 9-year span, you have picked early in the tens a whole lot, and you still have nothing to show for it. The Saints would magically wind up with the first pick overall this year. Just kind of thinking about the way we have been doing things, and if we're not inclined to make some changes, what are the chances we get that first overall pick right? We're not going to we're not going to cure ourselves. I think we're to that point. We need to go search out, seek, and find the cure, whatever it is. But you got to nip the sickness in the bud because it keeps getting worse. Goodbye, New Orleans. Hello, Giants. This just came over a little while ago on the Derek Carr situation. Recap. We know he some type of fracture on his hand. Initial reports were, he's going to miss time, blah, 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 whatever. Darren Ridley comes out yesterday in his briefing with the press, basically saying, no, he's in concussion protocol, so he probably won't practice this week. We'll see how it plays out. The hand, we're not sure he's going to miss time. He could be week to week. He's not even laying the groundwork that he was going to be out necessarily against Washington on Sunday. Then yesterday, I see a couple of tweets thrown around out there. So to revisit Derek Carr's 2025 contract real quick. He's got $30 million salary for 2025. He's got $10 million in guarantees. 3 days after the league opens in March, I don't remember the exact date in March. A lot like the Michael Thomas contract was last year. The bonus kicks in, which is basically that 30 million becomes guaranteed. So it's just kind of sitting there, and we all kind of know it as, what are we going to do with Derek Carr? And there's going to be, if he's staying, there's going to be some type of adjustment made on that out of that 30 million, whatever they're going to do to make the contract work, try to save some money in 2025. or if he's traded or whatever. That it's not likely intended that 3 days in he's still going to be on the roster and that's going to become guaranteed. However, also found out yesterday that 30 million is already guaranteed for injury, which basically means this injury that Derek Carr sustained on Sunday. Now, the way it was worded, I don't know exactly what this means, but it was just worded that if he can't pass a physical in the offseason, that 30 million is guaranteed. In essence, our 62 million over the cap, if that 30 million becomes guaranteed, becomes 92 million, like that. So I don't know why we're having the huge debate on what we're going to do with Carr. What we're going to do with Carr is make sure he's 100% healthy, so we don't get roped into something we don't want to do because all of a sudden that 30 million guarantee shows up in 2025 before we can do anything. Now, somebody may be backing off on this whole we're going to try to get Derek Carr back thing, which is just idiotic. Going back to what we were talking about in the first segment, going, come on, guys, just stop making bad decisions. You run the table, which you're highly unlikely to do. You still have no guarantees you're making the playoffs. And the boot, you do not want to have that 30 million become guaranteed due to a Derek Carr injury if you can avoid it. That's the whole reason why prior to Derek Carr showing up in New Orleans, when he was the Raiders, they basically sent him home at the end of the season going, look, if you get hurt, it's not going to be in a football related aspect, whether in practice, slipping on a wet floor in a facility, playing in a game, whatever, where we're going to have to guarantee that guarantee is going to, for injury is going to kick in. To that point, just a little while ago before I started filming, the Saints signed a quarterback, Ben DiNucci, who I think has bopped around with, I know definitely the Cowboys had him, I think last, but I think maybe even the Giants. But he sounds like a Giants, just the name sounds like a Giants type quarterback. And I hope I'm wrong on him playing for the Giants because after the first segment, when we're headed down the path of the Giants, the last thing I want is there Ben DiNucci showing up on our roster. But there it is. So we've added a quarterback. I don't know what this all means in the long run. I think a lot of this is going to play out, but I'm really hoping what it means is A, we don't expose Derek Carr in any way, shape, or form where that 30 million becomes guaranteed. And B, we talked about that opportunity, whether it's Rattler or Hayner, however that's going to shake out. We'll probably get some more clarification on that on practice Wednesday and Thursday for sure. Uh, Probably going to have a lot of discussion on that on Thursday afternoon's live stream, I'm assuming. But for right now, it's a weird situation, and the only thing that I can think of that's I'm prioritizing on the whole who's going to start a quarterback and who's going to do what is please make sure that injury 30 million guarantee on card does not kick in, whatever you do. So as promised, one little Kendre Miller highlight I'm going to show here. It's the touchdown run. That's the first angle of it. But on the replay, there was a really good angle and just a couple of things I want to point out and talk about after. When it comes to Kendre. The first thing is they had a linebacker blown up in the hole and that was almost caught for loss. He sees the space, he breaks the tackle, starts moving a pile, and ultimately he winds up in the end zone. But I think the real key takeaway is this right here, most of the day was a tackle for a loss. And he makes a move to get into where he sees the space and breaks the tackle. We know he's a powerful runner because he moved piles several times, broke some tackles, even on the kickoff return, one of the ones he had. I mean, he laid up just even as he was going down, he laid a monster lick on the guy trying to tackle him. He's a hard-nosed runner. And I kind of in the back of my head knew he had done some stuff. And while I was kind of cruising through highlights and rewatching certain points of the game, there were a couple other times this angle on the touchdown run showed it the best, where they did have that free guy that we were complaining about all Sunday night that our offensive line was letting come through. The free guy coming through, that guy a lot of times was making stops in the backfield before our running backs could go anywhere or really get going. And he did a tremendous job of kind of on his own making that guy miss, still getting the cut to get to where the space was, because that was a nice hole he had to run through. He had to slip a tackle first, which he did, gets in there, gains pretty good yardage. When the pile collapses on him, he starts moving a pile. And then finally, and I was a little perturbed about this about our offensive linemen. They were a little late running over there to help push him, but he kept it going with, I think MVS was in there and Jawan Johnson finally got over there. But initially, that first movement was mostly him to keep the play alive till they all started finally showing up on the scene. And, the old Reggie Bush push going back all the way back in the day, just keeping the pile moving until he winds up in the end zone. So trying to leave it a little more positive note on all this. And this is, I know this is going to be a topic of discussion on Thursday's live stream, but probably wasn't going to get a chance to show that. These young guys have to play, because to tie into what we're talking about in the first segment, if you don't want to be the Giants, you've got to start figuring out who these guys that can play. And we talked about him the other night. Miller comes up. We need him to stay healthy. We need him to play. We've got to take long looks at the quarterbacks, especially now that we know we cannot get Derek Carr hurt. We need him healthy, but we don't necessarily want him playing type situation just based on that $30 million guarantee. But you've got the Rico Paytons of the world. We definitely want to see Kool-Aid getting battle tested out there and get ready to go for next year. Odds are he's going to be one of our starting corners, however it works out. Good chance it could be Taylor. Taylor might be playing somewhere else. If their plans are to move Taylor back to the inside or moving the safety, because he did, and that was brought up. I think Jack brought that up Sunday night. He played some safety in college. He looks like a guy could probably do it. He's damn sure fast and can make plays, and we really need that out of our safety position. So that may be a look you want to throw out there for a couple of weeks. But whatever it is, we need to start finding the answers now. The only way you're going to find the answers on those guys, you got to get them on the field. And at this point, just be competitive, because you want to give a Kendre Miller, who you want to get a long, hard look at. And you don't need to run Alvin in the ground right now while you're doing it, but get Kendre Miller a good, hard look. Get them both ready for next year. See if Rico Payton's going to be ready to play some serious time on defensive snaps for next year, if we've got a chance at that. Up and down at all these positions where you're trying to get, hopefully Bub Means comes back. He needs a long run with MVS and Kevin Austin and trying to figure out ways to get him the ball. Let's see. Let's see over 4 games. Out of those 4 games, you're going to be playing 3 pretty good teams while you're doing it. So it's time to start answering some questions so we can get ready for the bigger, more important questions we're going to have to talk about in the offseason, moving into 2025. So there you have it. Just pretty much what I have today. I did want to put that final bow on the Saints-Giants game and get some of that off my chest. And throw the concerns out there that I think we knew what they were, but the conclusion I'm drawing from that game is kind of worse than we thought, and we need to, plan for the best, but prepare for the worst when these decisions are coming up about new coaching, how we're going to handle the salary cap, who's staying, who's going, all that stuff. But we can't get caught in the treadmill, and this is what I'm so worried about right now, that we're playing this like we still have a chance to win the playoffs. I don't want to tank. I want to be competitive. I want to keep instilling a winning fight spirit that Rizzy's trying to bring back to the culture. But at the same time, I don't want to live in fantasy land either while we're doing that. Let's be real and honest with everyone exactly what's going on. And let a lot of those guys know you're playing for your job. It's the bottom line. So give me a thumbs up if you're thinking that that's where we're at right now. Drop them in the comments going, it's a come to Jesus moment throughout the organization. A lot of people are going to have to answer some tough questions about themselves and what else is going on in the organization. Changes are coming, whether we want them or not. I think the point of everything is you've got to make the right changes, because you keep screwing up, doubling, tripling down on the wrong ones, you will become the New York Giants. None of us want that. Rest of the week going to kind of look like normal. Live stream Thursday afternoon, 2 p.m. Central. We're going to have the live stream post game Sunday night after the Washington game. Be on the lookout. I'm really trying to finish up a couple more of the um, videos on potential head coaches, and doing a little more deep dive into some of the names that we haven't talked about yet. So hopefully I can drop maybe one of those this weekend and catch back up with that next week. So if you're new here, go ahead, please subscribe, hit the like and the share, and especially the notification. That way, when these videos pop up, when we're going to do the live stream, it'll pop up and notify you. And come on in and join us and have a good time. So till I see you Thursday afternoon, I'm Tim. Peace out and hoot at.